Yeah. Other day we have seen about this one, right? What is the process and what are the various things that we are going to have in a process? Remember everybody? Able to follow ma? Previous class, everybody.
So,
Okay. So just we'll have a review of the things and we'll proceed to the next topic. So we have seen what is the process. So in process, any process that we take, it will have mainly these things. It will have the text, it will have the data, it will have the heap memory and the stack memory. So whatever the instructions I'm writing, that instruction will be in the form of text. If anything it has to store, it will store the data. Then heap memory is something which is used for dynamic memory allocation, and stack is the execution of the program. This is what we have seen in the previous class. Then when we come to the process state, here we are going to have something like life cycle. There we are going to have new, ready, running, waiting, and terminated. These are the 5 different states that we are going to have in a process. Okay. So new is a whenever any instruction is coming, it will be going to the ready state. From ready state, it will go to the running state. If it has to require any input output operation, it will go to the input output waiting room. From there, it will go to the ready room. From running, if it is interrupted, it will go back to the ready room again. Suppose if it is successfully executed, then it will exit the things and it will come out. So this is a complete state or complete life cycle of a process we can see. Okay, so this is what we have seen in the previous class. Till here we have seen in the previous class. So next what we have is something called as process control block. What is this process control block? As we know, process is something instruction. Suppose everything in your mobile, if you're opening the application, suppose you are open a Zoom application in the mobile. So for that, it requires a process. Suppose along with the Zoom application, you are opening any other application like WhatsApp. For that is also a process. Okay, anything, any app that we are opening in the mobile, anything that we are opening, any simple application that we are opening in a mobile, everything is what we call as a process. Okay, so here what happens is for every process there must be a unique id. There must be a unique id created for every process. Why it requires unique id? Like for example, if we take a classroom, every student will have the name. Along with the name you will be having something called as all ticket number. Why all ticket number is given? Just to identify in a sequential order. To identify the students in a sequential order, we are giving the all ticket numbers to every student, right? Then able to follow everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so here as every student is given the all ticket number, as every student is given a all ticket number, so in the same way every work that is done in a computer or in a mobile is given a process number, is given a process number. Okay, that is it can be anything. It can be that will be generated by the system. Okay, we cannot say that it is 1 2 3 4 5 6 like that. It is automatically generated by system, so system will give that number. That is the headache of the system or the mobile operating system. But every process that is running any app, suppose if you have opened an app, if you open an app and if you are doing some game, if you are open WhatsApp, if you open Facebook, if you open any other apps, Zoom app, anything you open, every simple thing that is getting executed requires a process. Like I'll tell you one simple example. Suppose if you have open Google Chrome in your mobile. In Google Chrome, we can open multiple windows again. We can open multiple windows in a single browser. So for everything, suppose I open in one browser, I open Google. In another browser, I open a university website. In another browser, I open college website. So for Google, it requires one process. For university website, it requires another process. For college website, it requires another process. So for every simple thing that we are doing, it can be anything. It can be a click of the mouse also. It requires a process. Okay. So whatever we do, whatever action or whatever work we do in a computer or in a mobile, everything is what we call as process. In a simple term, process is nothing but the task which is getting executed, the work which is getting executed is what we call as a process. Okay. So for every process, we will be giving process number. Okay. Just to identify whether there is a process or not. To identify, it will be having something called as process number. Okay. Then already I have explained you what is the process state. Process state is nothing but we'll be having 5 different states: new, ready, running, waiting, terminated. Okay. So for suppose if I open a WhatsApp, for WhatsApp, what is the status? Is it in the new state? Is it in the ready state? Is it in running state? Is it in waiting state, or it is in the terminated state? The state which is going to tell about that process is the process state. And for every process, we will be giving process number, as I have said, that is generated by the computer automatically. Then next part we have is something called as program counter. This is one of the important thing that we have to see here. What is this program counter exactly? Okay. Sometimes we need to save the files and we need to restore the files, or we need to move the files in and out of CPU sometimes. Sometimes I have to move inside the CPU. Sometimes, I'll tell you one example. Suppose if you are doing some work, if you are filling the application form, if you are filling a online up, let us say if you are filling a online application form of any particular website. So there what happens, you are opening a website and you are entering the details. Whatever details you have to enter, you are entering the details. So there what is happening, you are entering the name, address and all. Then you will be having something called a submit button or next button. Yes or no? Everybody. You might have filled one or the other application form online. Did everybody fill it? Yes, ma?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. One or the other application form we might have filled it. So once we have filled the basic details, we'll be clicking on the submit button, or suppose if you want to create a new email ID only. I want to create a new Gmail account. So what we'll be doing, we'll be entering the name, first name, last name, date of birth, and all the things, and we'll be clicking on next button. Then it will ask us to enter the required email ID, password, and all the things. There, suppose if you click on back button, what will happen? What will happen if you click on back button? Suppose if you have filled the
It
first
will
page,
go.
yeah, you have filled the first page. After filling the first page, you went to the second page. From second page, again, if you click on back button, it has to go to the first page. Yes or no? And there, what it has to show? It has to show the information which already I have filled. Will it show empty over there? If I move from the
No,
second
sir.
page,
No, sir.
yeah, it will not show empty. Why it is not showing empty over there? The reason behind this is, once I've started this application, once I've started filling this application, for this application, there is a process number created. There is a process number created. So I moved from one page to another page. When I click on back button, it will take that process number and process counter. It will also maintain the counter of the process. That is how many times I'm using it, how many times I'm using this page, how many references I'm taking for a page. So based on that process counter, program counter, it will move back to the previous page and retrieve back the information which already I have entered. So that is what is called as program counter. How many times I move from first page to second page and from second page to back to first page again, I'll get back the details which I have filled. Every time I'll get back the details which already I have filled. That getting back of details can be done by using something called as process number and program counter. So whenever I open application, it will maintain the process number for that application, and it will also maintain the program counter. How many times I'm retrieving the page again and again. How many references I'm taking again and again. Those things are maintained by using something called as program counter. Okay, clear with this till here, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Next, what we have is something called as registers. Register is nothing but simple thing I can explain. We know that process is done inside the processor of a computer, CPU. Okay, every computer will have the processor, every mobile will have the processor, and whatever work it is getting executed, it will execute in a CPU processor or mobile processor. Apart from this, in order for the work to get executed, we have something like RAM. Yes, everybody know, I believe, what is a RAM? Random access memory.
No.
It will store the things temporarily. It will store the thing temporarily, whatever program it is getting executed. Right? Now, when we come to something like register, when the program is getting executed, apart from the RAM memory, every processor also will have a internal memory in the processor. RAM is what we have external. RAM is what we have external in the uh, external of this processor. But inside a processor also will have a memory. It is going to be very small size. It is going to be very small in size. That memory is what we call as registers. Why? What is the purpose of this memory? Suppose I've written a program in C language or C++. Some 10 lines of program I've written in C++. So what it will do? First line, it will take all the 10 lines of the memory. First, will go to the random access memory, temporary memory. It will go to the temporary memory. From there, how it will proceed? It will take line number 1. It will go to the processor, get executed, and come back, take line number 2. Like that, it will take line first line, second line, third line. Now, when line number 1 is getting executed in the processor, suppose it requires another temporary memory for the information to process inside a processor. Inside a processor requires a memory. That memory is what we call as registers. So inside a processor also we'll have a small storage of memory which will help for the work to get executed. That work which is getting executed, the memory which is helping to execute is what we call as register. And along with this register, it will also maintain the schedules, like which process is having a which process has to be executed first, which process has to be executed next. The schedules have to be maintained. Okay, maintaining the schedule, like normally when we come to the class, we'll be having the first hour, second hour, first hour so and so class, second hour so and so class, third hour so and so class. Like that, we'll be having the timetable, right? In the same way, processor is also going to maintain the schedule. Suppose if it is having 10 programs at a time, which program has to execute first, which program has to execute next. Like that, it is going to maintain the schedule. And in this schedule, it can have the priorities. Suppose all the processes are getting executed. Suppose if any process has to be executed urgently, very importantly, it has to be executed, then that will be given a higher priority so that it will be executed in a faster way. So that scheduling of information is also going to be maintained in something called as register memory. Okay. Then we'll have something like memory limits. What is this memory limits exactly? When we come to this memory limits, whatever information it is going to store, whatever information we have to store, it will have the limits. It cannot store unlimited number of memory. It has to store a limited memory inside a computer. That limit is what we call as memory limits. Then we have something like list of open files. That is, suppose in a mobile, I've opened about 5 or 6 applications, apps. So how many applications are open and how many applications require what type of resource? What information is required by what type of resource? Which device requires a which application? Suppose some device requires audio support, like YouTube. Suppose if we take WhatsApp, WhatsApp might require audio support and text support also. So it will also maintain list of the open files and the information it requires, the resources it requires. Excuse. The resources it requires is also going to be maintained by this. So that is what is a list of open files. And all the input output devices allocated to the process. How many input, suppose if any input device is allocated to a particular process, that list is also going to be maintained. Like if I open a YouTube, YouTube requires audio device, sound device. So that list for YouTube sound device, for so and so application, so and so resources allocated. For so and so application, so and so resources allocated. That information is going to be maintained in a list of open files. Then what we have is we have one more important thing called as accounting information. That is which process is taking how much time to execute, when the process has started, when the process has ended, at what time the process execution started, what time the process execution ended, and how much time it has taken. All this accounting information is also going to be stored in something called as memory limits. So this how the process control block is going to work. Process control block is a block which will make the process, which will maintain the information of the process which are getting executed. That is what is called as process controlling block. Clear? Followed by everybody? All are able to follow this? Everybody are able to follow this or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, fine. Now, next part we have is something called as switch from process to process. That is, if it see the example here, I'm having two processes, process P0 and process P1. There is two different applications. Say for example, this YouTube and this WhatsApp. Two different processes are getting executed at the same time. Okay. Now, one process requires interruption of another process sometimes. Say for example, we are in the Zoom application. Now, if you receive a phone call, what will happen? Zoom requires audio and video support. Zoom requires audio and video support. Suppose if you receive a phone call, what happens? Your phone call requires audio support. So automatically Zoom is been paused over there. Okay, it is going to stop and it will allocate the audio support to the receiving phone call. That's what is happening normally. Yes or no? So one process switching from one process to another process. You're switching from Zoom application to phone application, or switching from YouTube to WhatsApp, WhatsApp to YouTube. That is what is called as switch from one process to another process. So we have two process, process P0 and process P1. Now process P0 has started executing. Okay, then it requires interrupt or a system call. Okay, it requires, so it will reload the things and give it to the process P1. Now until process P1 gives the resources, P1 has been idle for some time. Here you can see the idle time of P1. That is, once P0 has given the resources to P1, then P1 has started executing. At the same time, P0 has become idle. That is, when I am receiving a call, suppose I am in the Zoom application, I receive a call, so Zoom will become idle and the phone will become active. Once I have ended the phone call, again the control will be given back to the Zoom. So phone will be idle and Zoom will be active. The result, it will switch from one process to another process. So here, at this point of time, mainly what we are going to use is, we have something like interrupt. If you come back to the life cycle, we have something like interrupt here. The process is running. It will go to something called as interrupt. Interrupt is nothing but stopping the things for time being. Stopping the things for timing and is getting executed. That is, when one process requires the things, other process has to stop by itself. That is the duty of the operating system. So this stopping of the things and execution of the things is what we call as shift from process to process. Okay, all are able to follow this? Are
Yes.
you, are everybody able to follow this, ma?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So this is how the process is going to maintain the things. Then for every process, we have one more important concept called as threads. You will be coming across these threads in Java also. In Java also, you'll be seeing the term called as threads. You'll be creating something called as threads and life cycle of thread, multi-threading, all those things. Thread is nothing but just, it is not a thread what we use in a regular way. Just assume that thread is a way for which a process will be executed. The path, we can say that it is a path. Suppose I want to travel from one place to another place. For example, I want to move from Secunderabad to Uppal. How I will go? What is the best way I can take?
Bike.
I have to come to from Secunderabad to Metuda, Metuda to Tarnaka, Tarnaka to Apsiguda, Apsiguda to Uppal, right? That is the way we will be normally taking. So here what happens is, the path is being established. I'm establishing a path in which I have to travel. There might be alternative roads also. There are alternative roads also. I can take any other alternative roads also. They are alternative roads, but they are lengthy. So the path I'm establishing, the way I want to travel, is what we call as thread. So the process which has to execute, it will establish a way. It will establish a way in which way I have to travel. If this process has to complete, which way it travels, how many resources it requires, how many things it requires, how much time it requires for execution. All these things is what we call as thread. So process as single thread of execution. Every process will have a single thread of execution. Consider having multiple program counters per process. One process can have multiple program counters. Like if you take a Google Chrome, in Google Chrome I can open multiple applications. So multi-thread controlling also can be done. So and these threads, for a program counter to execute, it will help in a multiple way. Those are the threads are going to be useful for us. And in Java, you will be learning how to create a thread, how to execute a thread. Okay, all these things programmatically you'll be learning in Java. I think in third unit you'll be coming across this stuff. At end of the second unit or third unit you'll be coming across this concept of threads. Fine. Clear? Able to follow everybody?
Sir.
All are able to
Yes,
follow?
sir.
Okay, fine. I'll stop the things here. First, I'll take the attendance.